Wow, what a title, you've just seen it. Delivering a sustainable world. We need to zoom out now to focus on everything, on the really big picture. I have a question to all of you. Who has been in China or any other country in Southeast Asia recently? Just lift your arms. Quite a lot of you, so there are many world travelers here. Have you seen the enormous social and environmental transformation that happens there? It just blows my mind away. As a sustainability consultant, it really blows my mind away if I see this kind of massive change. They really turn the country upside down. It's unbelievable. So I struggle with the development this Earth takes day in and day out, every day. What advice shall I give to a client who, for instance, sells apparel and dreams of selling more and more, using more and more resources and putting more and more stress on an already very much stressed planet? We have seen sustainability initiatives for the last 50 years, but we are still somehow at the starting point. Look, the WWF calculates the number of planets we need to sustain our current way of living, also TED conferences. And the surprising thing is, the number of planets grows every year. I think we are now with 2.7 planets we need. So sustainability does not make any progress. Why is there no progress? Simply, there is no collective pressure to change. There's no joint and agreed upon target. We all do what we want. Everybody does what he or she thinks is best. Governments, companies, civil society, you and me. The chances that this will actually lead to a good solution that saves the planet and humanity are very, very low. So, how do we progress from here? It's obvious we need much more collaboration. We need to work in one direction. How can we achieve this? Before I point you in the direction of a possible solution, let's first look at what current actors, current stakeholders do and why. Let's start with a stakeholder, the NGOs. NGOs typically drive issues that drive donations that secure their jobs. If you see one of the largest campaigns driven by Greenpeace in the last years, it was a campaign to eradicate harmful substances from the textile supply chain. You might know it, it's prominently named Detox. Putting this initiative, this campaign into perspectives, leaves at least with me some question marks. Here you can see the worldwide pollution of large German industries accounted for in external costs. And what you see is textile is not really in the focus. So, why are they driving textiles? Why is there, for instance, no campaign for cars or metal products? And still, if we look at the next stakeholder group, the German government jumped onto the bandwagon and forced the German textile industry into an alliance for sustainable textiles. An unprecedented move by a government. No other government has done this before. Why are they not forming an alliance for sustainable cars, sustainable metal products, or sustainable chemicals? It's relatively easy. Politicians want to get re-elected and stay in power. In Germany, this meant, up to now, I have to say, to not mess with the automotive or chemicals industry. And now let's look at the third player, the big player, that's companies. What do? They are very much focused on their business, very much focused on delivering results, and very much focused on doing all sustainability activities that can increase their profits. Very, very often, unfortunately, it's greenwashing. So we see a lot of egoistic approaches to really a sustainable world. How can we overcome this? How can we make out of these individualistic, egoistic approaches one approach? And since the end of 2015, there is hope. At least I see hope. There is really something which happens in this world. after failing to fully deliver on the Millennium Development Goals, a myriad of people, intelligent people from all over the world, came together and drafted a new set of goals, more comprehensive, much more including all countries, not just the global south, and bringing the complex issues we have to life. Born were the so-called Sustainable Development Goals. You can see them here. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. They are great. They cover everything we need to solve, from poverty to hunger, gender equality to responsible consumption, or climate action to peace and justice. Have a look at them if you haven't read through them up to now. But still, they are about to fail. They will fail again. And why are they failing? Because they address the wrong players, the governments. 2030 is really around the corner. It's only 12 years to go. And what do the governments do? Nothing. They're just too cautious, and they're really slow in hammering out the necessary regulations we would need to make this happen. And you can see it. Now I show you really a good consulting chart, because you can see the details. But you should not see the details. Just get the impression. And my first impression with this chart is, it's red. It's rather red and alarming with only 12 years to go. There's not so much green there. But we only have 12 years to solve the SDGs. There should be much more green by now, but we can't see it. So, if governments are the wrong players, I think there's a much better group of players we should address. And this is companies. Unfortunately, the SDGs were not written for companies up to now. So, what can we do? How can we make companies take on the challenge with SDGs? That's really a question. The big thing with companies is they have much better economic punch, they have reach, and they have pressure to change. Let me elaborate on this a little bit. First is, if you compare the top 20 Fortune 500 companies and their combined revenue, it is larger than the combined country revenue of the bottom 80% of countries in the world. This is more than the 170 countries. The largest Fortune 500 company, it's Walmart, it's larger than the number 9 country, which is Spain. And even the smallest Fortune 500 company, it's called AutoNation from Florida. Probably you all don't know. But it's still larger than number 66 country, Croatia. So companies really have the economic power to deliver on the SDGs. The question we have now is, do they have the reach? Can they really reach the different countries? We live in an intensely globalized world today, and you all carry your TEDx name card around your neck, yeah? Take it off. I have to do it very carefully not to destroy the microphone. You should really take it off now. It's also some exercise, good, to wake up again. And I wanted you to take it apart, but if you take it apart, you will probably destroy it because you have to peel off your sticker and all this. But still, look at it very carefully, and now I want you all to close your eyes and try to imagine where all these things you see came from. The paper, the metal clip, the spring in there, the fiber, everything. After 40 years of globalization, value creation spans the globe. Thousands and thousands of suppliers and sub-suppliers are today involved in making even very simple products. So big corporations actually have the reach through their value creation to deliver on the SDGs. And finally, they do have really the economic punch. No, sorry, not the economic punch, but the economic pressure to do so. They are always in a competitive environment. So companies have to get it right to stay ahead. And they're evaluated by their stakeholders. Typically, these stakeholders, or the most important ones, are customers and the financial market. And the money, which is very important, this aspect, always flows to those companies that have a brighter prospect to the future. If you combine this thinking with the thinking of companies of fear for looming regulations by governments to fulfill the SDGs, we have a pretty compelling case to change. Recap. I see there is a solution for all the problems we have in the world because we have agreed upon it as a country, as a globus, unanimously. All the countries said, SDGs are great, we wanted to fulfill them. I see that companies actually are the better players to fulfill the SDGs because they have economic punch, reach, and pressure to change. But still, how do we make them to do this? Because we know already, if we don't do anything, they will not move, because they have a clear focus in one direction. And therefore, I think what we really need is an independent, incorruptible body that evaluates the SDG performance of companies. This sounds like an impossible task. I know it's difficult, but I'm very convinced that it can be done. We would need 3 major ingredients to make such an independent body a success. The first thing what we need is we need to calculate the global impact companies have through their entire value creation. So if BMW sells a car, we need to know who on earth participated in creating this car. Today, and this might be a surprise to many of you, is these calculations can be done with publicly available information. So we don't really need to know what BMW is doing in detail. We can do these calculations today. So then we know where they all have impact. The second thing is we need to match these findings with the SDG performance of the countries where the value creation happens. Then we would know on what issues, for instance, BMW, actually should focus in the different countries where they create value. And thanks to the Bertelsmann Foundation, we already know how well different countries perform in terms of SDG delivery. You have seen this chart already. This is from the Bertelsmann Foundation, and this, in much better granularity, will do the trick. And third, we need a new element, which is not existing yet, which is a SDG Company Index that evaluates the company performance in terms of SDG delivery. This index, this ranking, will lead to a self-improving cycle because companies suddenly know where they actually have to take action, where to focus on, and they will invest their scarce resources on issues that truly matter to countries and their societies to perform. And for the first time in history, we would have a set of goals that is universally agreed upon and that guides the corporate world. The first time we have sustainability goals that guide everybody. All we need to do is we really need to build this index and get started. And I hope today there's somebody here who's also passionate about this earth and has further ideas how we can create this SDG Company Index to deliver a sustainable world. Thank you very much.